What's up, everybody? Welcome to the StormCast, the world's best podcast. We're live on YouTube and Twitter. I hope everyone is having a good week so far on this beautiful Friday. I'm glad to be here with you. Before we get into today's StormCast, I want to give a quick sound check to make sure everything is sounding good because we do it live, folks. We do it live. A lot going on around the world.
What's up,
Yep,
everybody?
and we sound good. I'm happy to be here with you. And shout out to everybody joining today. Today's live. So let's get right into it. All right. I don't gamble. I don't bot, and I keep it real. I'm one of the only live streamers to do that, right? So I don't have no fake viewers. Keep it authentic. I don't care if I live stream to one person or a million people. I'm always going to be the same me. I'm always going to be authentic and keep it real and bring you guys the most real podcast, in the world, to be honest with you. So yeah, if you haven't already checked out the latest episode of the StormCast, episode 56, we talked all about the UFO files dropping, the new outbreak of the hantavirus. We talked about the David and the Stefan Diggs case. We broke those down and a lot more. So if you haven't already checked those episodes out, I recommend you do so. All right. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the latest news for today. A lot going on around the world, as I mentioned. I wasn't here last week, so today's episode will kind of cover the past 2 weeks. And so, yeah, guys, the World Health Organization, or WHO, has declared a new outbreak of Ebola. They're declaring it as a global health emergency. All right, so many of us remember I believe it was around 2010 time frame when the Ebola outbreak broke out of Africa, and there was a worldwide emergency. When that happened, a lot of people were dying, especially in the Africa region of the world. But now we have another Ebola outbreak, apparently, right? So we are on Instagram for this article. Shout out to Tech Invincible. But if you haven't already followed me on Instagram, shout out to me at Icy Mick. Go follow me. All right. I will keep you updated with everything StormCast related, as you see here. Posted 5 minutes ago, going live for episode 57. All right. So go and follow us there. And we also have a StormCast Instagram as well, where we update you with everything StormCast related, So let's get right into this. The World Health Organization declares Ebola outbreak is now a global health emergency. More than 100 deaths are reported so far to be associated with the outbreak, with concern rising due to the absence of an approved vaccine. All right, so always something. Last week it was the hantavirus. This week we have the Ebola virus, right? So whether or not these are, global, quote, global outbreaks, or, just, scares in a local region, who knows? But we know that the media is going to drag it out and make it, more of a, a problem than it probably is, right? You probably don't need to be concerned if you're here in the United States or in any region of the world that is, that has proper sanitation and is first world, I should say. So So an Ebola outbreak in Africa has resulted in more than 100 deaths. The World Health Organization is calling it a public health emergency of international concern.
Medical professionals seem very concerned about the possibility or the ability to contain this. Why is that compared to other times?
It's already a big outbreak at the point that we're hearing about it. There have already been a number of deaths, and this is a strain of Ebola for which we have no treatment, no vaccines.
Medical professionals seem very concerned about the possibility or the ability.
Okay, so apparently this strain has no treatment or vaccine, and of course that's what they're going to tell you when they want to create a vaccine, in order, because we know that, vaccine companies make a lot of money out of these pandemics and these outbreaks, right? So they're going to, tell us that there's no vaccine in order to create one, create a treatment for it. So let's continue on here.
To contain this. Why is that compared to other times?
It's already.
What do we know about these Americans and their infection?
So we know there are at least 6 who are being monitored as contacts. 3 of them are considered high-risk contacts, so significant exposure. And one of those contacts has already developed symptoms. We don't know yet where they will be evacuated to for medical care. Some of the sites with experience in the United States include Bellevue Hospital here in New York City, Emory in Atlanta, the University of Nebraska Medical Center, but Nebraska is already taxed with all of the hantavirus contacts, so they're not going to be able to take these folks.
What do we know about these Americans?
Okay, so they're telling us that 6 Americans were exposed and are being treated here. But apparently the facilities that they want to take them to are too full because they have already hantavirus, hantavirus victims, or people infected with the hantavirus, right? So I haven't heard too much of the hantavirus. I don't know anybody who's got the hantavirus. Y'all let me know if you heard, of anyone, that has the hantavirus, but it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. And, they're making it more of an issue than it really needs to be. Let's continue on.
The virus spreads through direct contact with blood and other bodily fluids. Dr. Craig Spencer contracted Ebola while working in Guinea in 2014.
Healthcare workers are the group that I'm really concerned about because they have very close contact with people when they're most contagious, particularly around the time of folks' death.
The virus spreads through direct contact with blood and other bodily fluids.
Okay, so blood and bodily fluids. So don't get into contact with anybody. Don't be, kissing or, getting blood on you from anybody with Ebola. But I'm trying to see when was the first Ebola outbreak?
The first recognized outbreak of Ebola occurred in 1976. It happened simultaneously in 2 places, Nzaro in Sudan.
Okay, so that was 76. I'm thinking most recently. Do you mean most recent last thing, chat, or I believe it was 2012, correct? Let's see here. ChatGPT's not being too smart. All right, so 2012, we're just talking about most recently. Okay. Yeah. So my ChatGPT is acting stupid. I got the free version. Maybe I need to upgrade because she's not helping me out here with my questions. But let's continue on.
We are very afraid. Since the beginning of May, many people have died, and it keeps happening. What is happening is that if someone has a headache, a fever, or a stomachache, they die after a while.
That fear is echoed across villages where burials have become a daily reality.
The problem we've noticed is that over the past 3 weeks, people have been dying in very large numbers. There are days when we bury 3, 5, or even 6 people. It starts off with just a fever, stomach pain with diarrhea, and then death follows.
We are very afraid. Since the beginning of May.
All right, so I was right, folks. It was 2010. There was an outbreak in 2010, but so yeah, there was a outbreak of Ebola in 2010. All right, so my guess was right.
A British man who was supposed to be in strict quarantine for hantavirus was just hauled out of a bar in Italy. The man, who's in his 60s, had reportedly been ordered to isolate for 42 days after being on the same flight as a 69-year-old woman who died after she contracted the virus that was linked to the MV Hondias cruise. But instead of staying inside, he was found drinking in Milan alongside a travel companion before both were taken to Sacco Hospital. So far, the outbreak has been linked to 11 cases and 3 deaths after passengers reportedly caught the virus during a bird-watching trip at a rubbish tip on a remote Argentinian island. A British man who was supposed to be in strict quarantine for hantavirus was just hauled out of a bar in Italy.
All right, so apparently a guy who had the hantavirus, a patient infected with the hantavirus, was seen at a bar drinking. That can't be good, right? You don't want to be the person to get his cup, his glass after he leaves, right? So let's see. So here come the conspiracy theories. This meme says hantavirus failed, so now they are unleashing the next pandemic. All right, so y'all let me know what y'all think of this situation. Personally, I don't think there's anything to be worried about. Continue to, as with all infections, viruses, diseases, plagues, just worry about yourself, right? Worry about keeping yourself clean, your environment clean, and not getting into contact with anyone that you don't need to be in contact with, especially if you would consider them sick or if they have symptoms or anything. But you should be good. They're just trying to roll around the next pandemic, it's looking like. So this comment says, how is it global when only in Africa? All right, well, that person didn't read very well that there was people in America with it. Apparently they didn't look at the whole post. This person says, if they're so worried about the virus, why allow migrants from infected countries into the EU rather? All right, this person says, oh no, please, let's all pray the World Health Organization and Bill Gates and the big pharma corporations swiftly produce a vaccine. Yeah, so people have obviously had enough with the pandemics and the lies and the gimmicks, it's looking like. But let's continue on. Ebola outbreak is now a global health emergency. Let's see what else we have. I think we saw that. What else? All right. Keep right clicking instead of left clicking. Hold on. We didn't see this.
Now a public health emergency of international concern. After dozens of deaths and fears, the true scale may be much larger than currently reported. As of the latest WHO figures, there have been at least 390 suspected cases and more than 100 suspected deaths. The Ebola outbreak in Africa has been declared an international emergency. The World Health Organization says the outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
All right, let's continue on.
Medical professionals seem very concerned about the...
What do we know?
Also saw that. All right, so if you want to go on Polymarket and make a bet whether or not the Ebola case in the U.S., whether or not there will be an Ebola case in the U.S. by June 30th. So maybe I was wrong. Maybe there wasn't an Ebola case. I was thinking about hantavirus. So that commenter was actually right. Why worry about it if it's just in Africa? But if you want to make a bet whether or not there will be Ebola in the U.S. by June 30th, you can go do that. Go make some money. Go gamble a little bit on Polymarket. Right now, there's a 21% chance of yes, there being a case here, and a 79% chance of there not. So I am leaning towards the side of not here, and yeah, I just don't think they're going to be able to get it here. And as long as they quarantine them, unless they purposely, bring it over here, we should be good, right? So far, apparently there was a 10% jump from last week, though. Apparently people, are becoming more and more scared as time goes by, as they read more online, as they, spend more and more time online reading about and seeing, what they're pushing in the media to, scare people, control people, things like that. But I think we should be.
The virus spreads through direct contact with blood and other bodily fluids. Dr. Craig Spencer contracted Ebola while working in Guinea in 2014.
Healthcare workers are the group that I'm really concerned about because they have very close contact with people when they're most contagious, particularly around the time of folks' death.
The virus spreads through direct contact.
All right, cool. Let's see. We got someone in the chat. Shout out to Sean Saxon, Chandra. She's 2897. She says, Stormy, keep bringing great topic and information. Always, of course. I got you. All right, let's continue on.
With blood and other bodily.
We are very afraid since the beginning of May.
Saw that already. All right, you can also bet on Polymarket if there will be a new pandemic in 2026. Still unlikely that we'll see a pandemic this year, but the odds are slightly up, 13%. Okay, so I'm leaning towards no on that, right? And I typically make some good, guesses and bets. So, if you want to make some money, I'm not, check this. I'm an expert, consider myself an expert when it comes to, making bets on things like this. But you never know. You never know whether or not what they want to do. And when I say they, I mean, the global elite who, control pretty much everything, whether it be global scares, wars, money, the banking system, and there's a lot of people that go into that, in countries. But let's continue.
A British man who was supposed to be in strict quarantine for hantavirus was just hauled out of a bar in Italy. The man, who's in his 60s, had reportedly been ordered to isolate for 42 days.
We saw that. All right, you can bet on Polymarket whether or not the hantavirus pandemic in 2026. Apparently, there's a 7% chance. All right, so a lot of people not really thinking this is a big thing. All right. Saw that as well. All right, continuing on, we have more news here. This right here is going to be a little bit more sobering than that, though. Recently, there was a shooting, a mass shooting in San Diego at a mosque by two individuals. 3 were killed and 2 suspects. The two gunmen were all killed. So a total of 5 casualties in this. So let's get the information on what went down. All right.
Preliminary information to put a lot of minds at ease. There is no further threat. Both suspects in this case are deceased. All of the kids are safe. Our hearts go out to the families that are in this moment being notified of what has happened to their loved ones. We have 3 confirmed adults that are deceased at the Islamic Center. There is a lot of preliminary information that we're going to try to highlight and cover, but understand it's going to take us some time to get accurate information out to everyone. Here's what we know so far. At about 11:43, we received a call of an active shooter at the Islamic Center. Within 4 minutes, officers arrived on scene and observed immediately 3 deceased, what appeared to be deceased victims out in front. They immediately began to deploy with an active shooter response into the mosque and adjacent school. At about the same time, we began to receive calls from just a couple blocks away that we had more active gunfire. Officers were also responding to that call for service at the same time. There was a landscaper that was doing his work that was shot at and fortunately was not hit. That was at about the 7100 block of Salerno, which is just a couple blocks from here. Moments later, at the 3800 block of Hatton, officers were called to that location where they found a vehicle in the middle of the street with who we believe to be the shooters in this incident, both deceased. The circumstances that led up to this and the details of what happened and exactly which time it happened will come out in the days ahead.
All right, so there you have it, folks. We have the police chief for that region in San Diego making a speech to the people, pretty much letting them know what went on and the most basic information on this, basically telling us that the 2 gunmen, the 2 teens, they were actually 2 teens, which is crazy. Kind of reminds you of another mass shooting that happened with 2 teens, the Columbine shooting. But they pretty much killed 3 people. Luckily, only 3. In a situation like this, it could be a lot worse, especially when huge gatherings like churches and, events like that, when there's a lot of people gathered together. And then they go back to their vehicle and, kill themselves pretty much, exit. I forget, the political verbiage that you're supposed to say here on YouTube. Hopefully I don't get this doesn't get too flagged or anything like that. But yeah, and then they go take the coward's way out, and they're found. And, you can kind of consider it an unsuccessful shooting. Luckily, I believe there was a security guard that they got into a gunfight with outside of the mosque before entering, and that is what delayed their plans, to commit more violence on the individuals inside the mosque, and it saved them some time to where they were able to, barricade the building and themselves inside, to where they couldn't, get or shoot anyone else. But let's find out more information. We have more on it here. Let's see. Looks like we have someone. So here we have a article from CNN, or video rather. And so here we have someone related to the mosque speaking. So a eyewitness.
outrageous to target a place of worship. Our Islamic Center is a place of worship. People come to the Islamic Center to pray, to celebrate, to learn. Not only Muslims, but we have people from all walks of life. Just this morning, earlier, a group of people, non-Muslims, coming just to learn about our faith and our cultures.
How many total deceased? So we have our 2 suspects that are deceased. We have 3 victims at the Islamic Center. All 3 are adults, for a total of 5 people that are deceased. In 28 years, this is the most dynamic and impressive response that I have ever seen in policing. We have every single police officer available throughout our county that dropped what they're doing and did exactly what they're trained to do: run towards gunfire. And I tell you what got me. Watching the kids come running out. Just thankful to be alive.
It is extremely...
Yes, luckily they did not get any of those children. It could have been a lot worse. So, that's what happens when you attack a place of worship like that. God is on their side. Allah is present and protecting them here. At least in this instance, they were being, protected by God, I would say. So we have more on this. So police say gunmen 17 and 18 met online over Nazi obsession and killed 3 at the mosque in plot to end society with a race war, apparently. So apparently they did write a manifesto and had other related, files and papers with them when they were found regarding their reasoning behind the gunman. I did skim over the manifesto a little bit, and they said a lot about racial superiority, a lot of anti-Semitic remarks, racial slurs. It seemed a little bit fishy, right? It didn't seem like something that 2 teenagers would be able to come up with. Perhaps it seemed like it was written by an adult or CIA or something. I don't know if this is a false flag event for a specific purpose, or it was really them and they were just brainwashed online to the point to where they they had these ideas in them. But you got to be crazy and brainwashed to the extreme, to where you would find yourself able to commit such a crime, right? So apparently these 2 met online. These are the 2 gunmen. Let me see this next slide. We'll pause it there. So let's read. So police say gunmen 17, 18 met online, killed 3 at the mosque in plot to end society. Kane Lee Clark, 17, and Caleb Vasquez. So this is Kane Lee Clark right here, and this is the Caleb Vasquez. Apparently they are transgender, right? To no surprise, transgender lovers, and gender ambiguous. So obviously they have mental health issues, right? If they're transgender, right off the bat. So they carried out the attack at the Islamic Center of San Diego after connecting online over shared Nazi and alertonist ideologies. Right. Hours before the shooting, Clark's mother called police to report her son missing and possibly suicidal. She noted that her white 2018 BMW X1 vehicle, and several of her firearms were missing, along with a note, and that he was with another person dressed in camouflage. The teens had stolen the weapons from Clark's parents' home. All right. The suspects were confronted outside the mosque by security guard Amin Abdullah, a father of 8, who immediately engaged them in a gun battle. Abdullah heroically radioed a lockdown protocol inside the building before he was fatally shot. His swift actions, combined with the sound of gunfire, allowed staff and as many as 140 children attending at the mosque school to take cover and hide, delaying and deterring the gunmen from entering the main areas where the children were gathered just 15 feet away. Authorities credited Abdullah with saving numerous lives through his courageous response. The gunman killed 3 people in total before dying from self-inflicted gunshot wounds in the stolen vehicle nearby. Okay, so first of all, shout out to this security guard. He's a hero and a martyr. Unfortunately, he did pass and was shot by the gunman, but he will go and live forever, in heaven for his actions. So he is forever immortalized, and these 2 kids are in hell right now, all right? But not only that, he saved a bunch of children, and his kids will forever, have a heroic father to remember. But these 2, they actually did live stream this, right? So this is something that I've seen in previous mass shootings, specifically the one in Australia, I believe, or not Australia? I believe it was Australia, at a mosque actually, where he killed way more people than these 2. I mean, he killed tons of people, and he live streamed it, right? So I believe these 2 actually looked up to him, right? I saw the live stream, a little bit of it, and I'll show a little bit of it here. Hopefully I don't get it's not gonna have any like gore, any like blood or anything, so I should be good to show it here on YouTube. But yeah, he had writings all over his gun, and these 2 as well. You can see in their eyes like how crazy, especially this kid. Like, look at his eyes. You can just tell he's crazy, right? He's got the the stare of death, the 100-mile stare right here. And this one, was a transgender wrestler, right? So interesting. So yeah, these 2 kids were radicalized online, mostly on sites like 4chan and Discord, but as well as TikTok. Most of these people didn't know what Israel was until a few years ago, and that has pushed a lot of them through insane conspiracy theories, rightfully with some. Obviously Israel is committing genocide and atrocities, but that is no reason to commit a mass murder. If you're mentally capable or have a high enough IQ to handle that information without reacting, you should be able to control yourself. And this is no way to solve that problem, right? This proves nothing. And they achieved nothing with this, right? So, obviously mentally unstable, cross-dressing, but we have Harmonious Yuri. Shout out to Yuri in the chat. He says the cross-dresser and the Hispanic kid are white supremacists. Okay, dude. Yeah, right. Yeah, so a lot of people, this story is not adding up for a lot of people, especially the manifesto and connected to it. It's not adding up. A lot of it's not adding up. But let's see what else we have here.
Manifesto with documents that were found in the vehicle.
A 75-page document that we've reviewed, apparently written by both of the suspects yesterday. One of them starts the initial section, the other one finishes with their own. It can only be described as a hate-riddled document. The writings are filled with extremist material, espouses anti-Islamic, anti-Semitic, and accelerationist views. For those that aren't familiar with it, accelerationism in a nutshell is...
I forgot to mention anti-Islamic, but it seemed when I read it, most of it was anti-Semitic, right? Which would kind of make you think, like, why would they attack a mosque if they're so anti-Semitic? Why not a synagogue? And I'm not saying to attack a synagogue, but I'm just saying you would think that's what they would want to attack, right? So makes you wonder, what's the real reasoning behind this, and whether or not this is just a false flag attack in order to garnish some type of support for some type of purpose here in the United States or around the world, right? Well, let's continue on now.
There must be, the world must end. There must be mass violence in order to end the world as the way that it is now. That is the ideology. That's what they're pushing for. Nazi iconography, extreme misogyny, references to incels, racist writings against blacks and other ethnic groups. And a lot of talking there about Brenton Tarrant. You may remember the last hour
Brenton Tarrant. Okay, so that was the mass shooter in Australia. I believe it was Australia. Who committed the mosque shooting that these kids, looked up to, right? So let me see, Brendan Tarrant. No, he was a shooter. No, the shooter. Yeah, my ChatGPT is. I might have to upgrade, right? I don't want to have to pay money for ChatGPT, but they are not. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're not. All right. Either way, all right. These two looked up to that guy and, had the writings and, they mentioned him in the manifesto as they referred to themselves as the sons of Tarrant. And, they had the symbolic writings on their rifles, just like he did. Like if you see his live stream and their live stream, they tried to duplicate what he did. Obviously weren't very successful. Obviously 3 people died and that is way too many people, but it could have been a lot worse, so let's continue on.
Talked about Tarrant. He's the person who was responsible for the Christchurch shooting in New Zealand, killed 51 over the course of 2 mosques. He was engaged in that violence several years ago.
Police just called a manifesto with documents.
Okay.
And just, both of them blame the Jewish community for the problems of the world. I'm quoting from their language, loosely paraphrasing from their language. They are anti-Trump, and they describe themselves as anti-MAGA as well, the Make America Great Again movement. They have homophobic views as well. So to put it all together and to emphasize what police say, they hate everybody. Yeah. That's what they...
Yeah, it's like, who don't these guys hate in this manifesto, right? It's like, anti, homophobic, race, racist, anti-Semitic, all the words. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, very mentally unstable, and especially being transgender to have homophobic views. Very, strange. What's the word? Can't come up with the words today. It doesn't make sense, right? To be, gay and to hate gays at the same time. It doesn't make much sense, but let's continue on.
make clear.
It's a stew.
And it's a stew.
Although I don't hear you saying that there are anti-white sentiments in what
they
you've
are
read.
definitely white supremacists, and as I mentioned, the Nazi iconography, and one of them writes very glowingly of Adolf Hitler. So just to make clear what their views are. And just, both of them blame the Jewish community for the problems of the world. I'm quoting from their language, loosely paraphrasing from their language. They are anti-Trump, and they describe themselves as anti-MAGA as well.
All right. So let's see. We have more on this. So here is the live stream. All right. So we're not going to show any violence here. All right. This should be safe to show. So is breaking news verified footage from the San Diego Mosque attack was live streamed by the shooters before they took their own lives. And I did actually watch the whole thing, and you can for yourself go and watch that on X. It is all over X. You can go and find it there. But here's like a little clip of it. And then so pretty much what we're going to watch here is kind of towards the beginning where they begin to enter the building, but are confronted by the security guard, which is in this building right here. And they get into a gunfight. Then they enter the mosque over here. And then later in the live stream, you see them shoot someone outside of the building. And then you also see them shoot themselves towards the end of the video. So very graphic. If you can't handle things like that, I recommend you not even watch it, right? Because, it's one of those things that you will remember. It'll be kind of, you'll always remember that image in your head. If you can't handle that, violence, things like that, I wouldn't watch it. But here is some of the live stream here. I don't even think there was volume on the live stream itself. It was like muted. Apparently because the Discord members that were screen recording it. So they were live streaming it to a Discord chat, and those members screen recorded it and then posted it, right? So which also leads you to believe, like, were those Discord members tried for this? Because they should definitely be investigated and brought to trial for being in connection with this, right? Because obviously they knew that it was going to happen beforehand. So yeah. So here we go. We'll just play a little bit of it here. So here they are entering the building. They had not an AR, but some type of rifle, and apparently it kept jamming on them, right? So yeah, no skill, these guys. Did you see the writings on the rifle right there? Gun jamming. So yeah, nothing cool about this. Here they are walking around. And so yeah, that's the gist of it, folks. I don't know if they're shooting at. Yeah, it looks like the gun is jamming there. Funny, a lot of times when shootings like this happens, the perpetrator's guns always jam, right? And I think that's God, intervening, right, stopping it a little bit. So that's everything surrounding that. Obviously, there's not going to be too much more to talk about unless some more evidence pops up with people, connected to this. So that's that. Final thoughts on this is, rest in peace to all the victims in this. And, we need to find out how we can better, I don't know if it's gun laws or, mental health, or both. But I don't think it's the guns that are the problem. I think it's the mental health more so of individuals, especially transgenders. They seem to be a lot of the perpetrators recently, and it makes sense, right? Because they have a mental health issue, right? So right off the bat. So we got to figure out as a country how to better, because these are becoming way too prevalent and often. All right. And if you do have a problem with a certain demographic of people, whether it be Jews or blacks or gays, violence is never the answer, right? It solves nothing. And, it really just brings those communities, those groups together more, strengthens them, right? So, let's continue on. All right. So recently, President Trump and President Xi of China had a meeting. So Trump went over to China to discuss several things, with the Chinese president. And so here's what you need to know, and how the two superpowers of the U.S. and China compare. All right, so at the meeting, during Trump's state visit to China on May 14th, President Xi Jinping referenced the Thucydides trap. Thucydides trap. All right, a geopolitical theory suggesting that a rising power challenging an established one risks open conflict, which Trump interpreted as Xi calling America's nation in decline. Rather than push back, Trump posted on Truth Social agreeing with the assessment, writing, when President Xi very elegantly referred to the United States as perhaps being a declining nation, he was referring to the tremendous damage we suffered during the 4 years of Sleepy Joe Biden. 2 years ago, we were in fact a nation in decline. On that, I fully agree with President Xi. All right, so I don't think he was referring to Biden's term, although we did decline as a nation with Biden, I believe, as well. I believe he's referring to now, right? Because China is on the up, right? China is a global superpower, and they're only getting stronger, right? They have great relations with most countries. Matter of fact, I don't think any country, dislikes China, right? They are huge in global export. They have the largest population behind India, and they are, traditional, valued in most ways you can think of. So as a country, they are doing better than, the United States, the West. We are declining, due to the wars that we, choose to get into, that we don't need to be in, specifically the Iran war recently, that we are now in. And you can blame it on the rise of feminism. Our Western values have declined tremendously over the years. And Trump, he's not helping that out, which a lot of people thought he would. Me being one of those people, I thought, he would be the face of change, because he would stand on business, and not let America, get involved with, any foreign conflict that we didn't need to be in. But apparently, that promise of no new wars was a lie, right? So the catch is that President Xi made no direct reference to Biden in his remarks, and analysts note there was no apparent indication he was talking about any specific administration, right? So why would he? It doesn't matter who's the president, the country is declining, right? So Trump always likes to blame the left, blame Trump, it's an easy scapegoat, right? When really, he's reason for a lot of the problem, right? So Trump closed the post by adding that America is now the hottest nation anywhere in the world, effectively taking a geopolitical warning from China's president and turning it into a Biden attack ad, as he usually does, right? As he usually does. So here we have Trump speaking to Fox News.
Our country.
All right. I keep right clicking. It's kind of getting annoying. Let me go back, folks.
And we have to stop it. You know, President Xi said something yesterday. He talked about, and he wasn't referring to the last 15 months. He talked about America's a nation in decline. And I said, you're right. But he wasn't talking about, because he said, what you've done in 14, 15 months is a miracle. We are destroying our country, and we have to stop it. You know, President Xi said something.
All right. So there's that. All right. So now let's find out how China and the U.S. compare. Who really dominates the world? All right. So let's compare the two global superpowers. I would say the two strongest global superpowers, you know, with Russia following right behind, if not being, you know, top three, top two. So the U.S. still spends the most on military, roughly $1 trillion a year, with China spending roughly $336 billion. So we spend a lot more than them on military budget. China now has the world's largest navy. Okay, so United States has over 290 warships, with China with roughly 370 warships. So China now has the largest navy. Did not know that. You know, of course, we still have the largest army and air force, but still, China leading, you know, navy-wise. The U.S. still dominates global air power, right? So the United States with estimated 13,000 plus aircraft, and China having a whopping 3,500 plus aircraft. China, however, is the world's largest exporter, right? Right. So that's why they have so many connections, right? They network and they don't, you know, piss too many countries off, right? Everybody gets along with China, whereas, you know, you can't say that for the United States. There's tons of countries that hate the United States, and rightfully so for a lot of reasons, right? We like to go over and, you know, create conflict and police the entire nation a lot of times when we don't need to be, you know, in other countries, you know. You know, you could say that about where we're at right now with Iran, right? We don't need to be in that war. And that's why a lot of them chant death to America, right? Because we like to get our nose in everybody's potato salad, right? So the United States exports around $2.2 trillion worth of export each year, with China exporting around $3.7 trillion worth of export. So the U.S. has a much larger nuclear arsenal. The United States bolsters roughly 5,000 warheads. China, in comparison, roughly has 600 warheads. All right, so we are leading the nuclear race, but China leads in world manufacturing. Right, so the United States roughly produces about 17% of manufacturing, and China manufactures roughly 28% of the world manufacturing. So, continuing on here. The U.S. dominates the global tech industry. United States has Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google. China has Tencent, Alibaba, and ByteDance. Okay. United States in tech. But China leads the world in electric vehicles. Hold on, let me go back real quick. Okay. So yeah, China leads the world in electric vehicles, producing roughly 50% of the world's electric vehicles. United States, roughly 10%. Okay. Let's see. So the U.S. still leads in frontier artificial intelligence. United States has OpenAI, Meta, Nvidia, Google. China has Baidu, DeepSeek, and Alibaba. All right. Let's see what else we have here. So China controls most of the world's rare earth mineral supply, with producing roughly 70%. United States producing roughly 13% of the world's rare earth mineral supply. And pretty much the U.S. still leads in military spending, air power, nuclear inventory, big tech value, and frontier AI, while China leads in ship count, goods exports, manufacturing scale, EV adoption, and rare earth supply chains, showing that dominance depends on the category. All right, so what do you think, or who do you think rather holds the real global advantage here? This comment says, America will always be a superpower. America is not an empire. America is life. Is air. No America, no earth. The earth is run by America. All right. So this guy, definitely on the America train. I wonder who he voted for. This person says USA. Next question. I don't know. China seems to be the future. All right. And if we're not careful, they will quickly surpass the United States and all these other, markers. So, United States should be careful, and keep China close, right? Keep your enemies close, or keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, right? So we need to be watching them and learning. And I don't think they should be our enemy, right? Although we're in competition as a global superpower, they are not our enemy. Okay. And I think we should keep it like that, because a war between America and China would, be the end of times for sure, right? Simply put, because Russia would get involved, most likely allying with China. And that's all they need to get it, right? Those two versus the world, would be a scary, scary fight, even with the United States and APAC and, all of our allies, right? We would, bomb each other into oblivion, right? It would be a nuclear war for sure. So let's move on here. We have a case to unpack. So Kouri Richins was sentenced to life without parole in husband's fentanyl-laced cocktail murder. So life in prison for poisoning her husband with fentanyl for insurance money. So a woman who killed her husband and later authored a book about coping with grief appeared emotionless as she received a life sentence in prison. Seems like we've seen this before, right? Seems like after someone kills someone, they always want to make something to symbolize that killing, right? We read last time about the David case. he likes to go on stage and cry and talk about almost outing himself, right? Making songs about the murder itself, right? Romantic homicide. But here we have Kouri Richins. She gives an emotional speech before sitting stone-faced while the judge delivered her sentence. So her son reportedly says, quote, "You took away my dad for no reason other than greed, and you only cared about yourself and your stupid boyfriends." Ooh, that's not good. That's not good when your son, your kids say something like that against you, right? It does not make you help your case at all. It does not make you look like a good mother, right? Someone who should even, be a free person, a lot of times women will get, backing by the court, favor from the court, especially when they have children, because they need to raise those children, right? And, attend to their motherly duties, right? So that's why a lot of women, especially mothers, don't get sentenced to, very high prison sentences, even if they do commit a crime, versus, men. But in this case, she is cooked, absolutely. Having her kid say that. So Richins had mixed her husband Eric's drink with 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl shortly after attempting to harm him on Valentine's Day using a fentanyl-laced sandwich. All right, so prosecutors alleged Richins saw a future with her, with another man, and secretly opened life insurance policies on her husband, right? So, folks, FBI, they're not stupid, right? They're gonna, investigate, and they're gonna dig deep, and the evidence is gonna come, right? Evidence is a MFer, as my pops always used to say. So prosecutors alleged Richins saw a future with another man and secretly opened life insurance policies on her husband. Prior to her arrest, she appeared on local programs promoting her children's book about a young boy processing his father's death, right? So here we have her in court, let's see.
Is to make a decision, a weighty, long-lasting decision based on the best information available today. And the bottom line is this. Kouri Richins was convicted unanimously and beyond a reasonable doubt of attempting to murder Eric Richins, her husband, and the father of their 3 children. And then, having failed in her first effort of spending the next 17 days, not changing course, but doubling down, preparing to try again, and ultimately completing the act through the administration of poison. And for what? Money. All for pecuniary gain. A person if convicted, the court's duty is to make a decision, a weighty, long-lasting decision based on the best information.
Y'all saw her face there at the end. She's like, "What? How do you know all that?" Right? Like, it's written all over your face, chick.
Of committing that sequence of acts in that way. And
look at her face there. Like, what? You're actually holding me accountable for this? Right? Like, I'm actually getting in trouble for the crimes that I committed? What? I'm so confused and surprised, yet shocked. This can't be. I'm a woman. I don't get in trouble for the crimes I commit. I get away with them. I should only get a slap on the wrist. No, we got you. We got you.
For that reason, and who causes the absolute tragedy that has befallen Eric Richins' sons and family. A person convicted of those things is simply too dangerous to ever be free.
And you could tell she's not remorseful about what she did. She's just, kind of shocked that she got caught. Right?
Accordingly, Ms. Richins, based on your conviction on count 1, first-degree felony aggravated murder, the court hereby sentences you to life without parole. You have the right to an appeal. You must file a notice of appeal within 30 days. You have the right to be represented by counsel on appeal. Of committing that sequence of acts.
Her sentencing is life. Right? You don't see that too often with women. But she obviously gets to appeal it later. But as of now, she is in there buried under the prison for the rest of her life. So here we have her with her kids and her husband that she, killed. And so, yeah, that's a classic case of, a woman, she gets tired of the marriage. They don't care about you folks in the first place, right? These women, they kind of see you as a mark, as something, to maybe at first she did love him, right? But eventually, as time goes on, the marriage goes on, she realizes, why am I with this man? I can just get a better man. I'm a woman. I can get anyone I want. I have a bank in between my legs, essentially. So, I won't have, trouble finding another man. And if I kill this guy, I can get money, right? Lots of it. And so apparently she goes out, finds some fentanyl, and laces this man. And he dies, and his kids are left now without a father and now without a mother. All right, so good job. Shout out to her for being such an idiot and and getting caught. And now I can react to it here on the StormCast. Shout out to her and for making my content a little bit easier. So here we have more pictures of her, fake crying. When a woman cries, in public, never believe it, right? And so there you have it. We're supposed to feel sorry for her, but I don't feel sorry. Y'all feel sorry for this? I don't. So this person says, finally, them being held accountable. This person says she's only crying because she got caught. Exactly. This one says woman, right? So there you go. Classic lesson for men out there. These women don't love you, right? They love your bag. They love your potential, right? They love what you can give them, what you can provide. But you as a person, you are expendable, right? And it's not just women who think like that, right? Other men think of other men like that, right? The world thinks of you like that. The world sees you as a work slave, as a, as an object to be used for labor and, used for your muscle and, what you can provide. But you as a person, no one cares about your feelings, about, your goals, your aspirations. You as a human, the world does not care. Classic lesson for a man right there. So be careful with these women that you choose to get involved with. Obviously this isn't all women, but this is generally, how they think, So there are exceptions out there, obviously, but exceptions do not make the rule. So, they say she's too dangerous to ever be free. And I agree. Someone like that should not be free. So some more backstory on this. 5 things you need to know about the case. 1, Richins was a calculated killer. Obviously not too calculated, right? But anyways, prosecutors said Richins planned to kill her husband, Eric, weeks before his death on March 4th, 2022. They argued she tried to kill him on Valentine's Day when he became seriously ill after eating food she prepared, right? So she failed to kill him the first time with fentanyl in his food. And then weeks later, Eric died after drinking a cocktail laced with a dose of fentanyl 5 times stronger than what would be considered lethal. Wow. So, 2, Richins wrote a children's book about grief. The book, Are You With Me?, was about a father watching over his son after he dies. It came out shortly before Kouri's May 2023 arrest for Eric's murder. Investigators said she used a ghostwriting company to produce the book, fueling speculation it was only a publicity stunt to rehabilitate her image, right? So apparently she wasn't even really the author of this. This wasn't even really her. She didn't even write the content within it. She probably just used, as they say, a ghostwriting company, which they use just AI and a couple ideas, and they can write a book for you, right? It's not that hard to get a book written these days. And they're saying she dropped it right after her arrest to make it seem like, I'm grief. I was in grief over this situation, when really you were just trying to cover your tracks. So 3, Richins' own children are scared of her. Prosecutors shared statements from her sons, who were age 9, 7, and 5 when their father was killed. The oldest, now 13, made it clear he wants his mom behind bars for a very long time. And quote, I'm afraid if she gets out, she will come after me and my brothers, my whole family. I think she would come and take us and not do good things to us, like hurt us, right? So that does not help her case at all. And not one bit, not in the slightest. 4, she was motivated by financial gain. Prosecutors believe money was a primary motivator in Eric's killing, as Kouri was in line to inherit millions of dollars from life insurance policies she secretly took out on Eric. Prosecutors said she intended to use the money to eliminate massive debts racked up by her real estate business. Kouri was also having an affair with another man at the time, as they usually are, right? They never have one. Come on now. 5, the timing of the sentencing. Kouri's life sentence comes on what would have been Eric Richins' 44th birthday. All right, rest in peace to Eric. All right, Eric Richins, rest in peace. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on to our next piece of news for today. We have twerking for votes. Gotta love it. Women being women, showing off those goods, what God bless them with, right? Their moneymaker. Twerking for votes is congressional candidate Shelby Campbell's strategy. Democratic congressional candidate in Michigan is going viral, not for policy, but for twerking on her kitchen counter on TikTok while running for office. Shelby Campbell, 32, law student, single mom, 4 mugshots on her campaign websites. Her words, I've been to jail, I've been judged, I got back up. She's running against the incumbent in Detroit. All right, off the rip, y'all, please do not vote for this. All right. We already have enough degeneracy as it is in the United States, Western Hemisphere of the world. We do not need this chick, in office making important decisions. All right, so the people of Detroit, choose wisely. All right. So let's see. We have more on this. Let's check out what she's got. All right, let's go. Okay, here we have her on TikTok about to shake that thing. Let's give it some volume. Uh-oh.
Typical person. Do you think that twerking is going to get people to the polls? Pardon the pun.
Oh, I know. Literally. Yeah, honestly, like I said, men are kind of, we all know how they are. Look at the men that are in power now.
Congressional hopeful Shelby Campbell says sex sells, twerking for your vote in the 13th district.
I'm classy. Am I not? I don't do OnlyFans like everybody just keeps saying. I was just having fun. You know, I'm young and I'm taking advantage of social media.
She says she's got booty and brains. A law student, mom of two, and former line worker, now making cheeks blush across TikTok in an attempt to clench votes. One of the videos surfaced said, I'm a great, but would you know a if you saw one?
Yeah.
What was behind?
Look at her, just yep, I did that. Yep, no remorse, no, this modern women, man, we're cooked as a society, right? This is your average woman right here, no shame, entitled. She's a single mom, a law student at that. And so her poor kids have to go to school and get picked at because, hey, wasn't your mom she the one twerking on TikTok? Yeah. All right. So it's just embarrassing, no decorum, the fall of traditionalism and, Christian values as a country obviously degraded. And this is just proof of that. Feminism, here to stay. Obviously, they're not getting that. They're never giving that back, right, folks? Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, they listen to this music and they think, they look up to these women, right? And they think it's good, to, degrade men, all right, to shame, to shame the hierarchy, of, call it a patriarchy, which, men and women have equal rights, right, at this point in time. Yet they blame the patriarchy and but so let's continue. Let's see what she has to say.
All that. They were calling me a so I just like to be sarcastic. And if you're gonna call me an ethical person,
All right, obviously nothing really even back there, right? Flat back, typical average white woman here. Nothing impressive about her, just on the internet, just shaking her ass, right? And, for the world to see, right? And no shame about it, right? That's where we're at. Let's continue.
to call me names, I'm gonna make you feel awkward for doing so. Like, I'm just gonna dish it back because why do you think you can talk to me like that?
Her opponent, incumbent Congressman Shri Tanadar, whose campaign strategy is, let's say, more traditional. What's your thoughts on him?
I just want younger people in office, and he's a millionaire, so I don't have that, and he does. So it's very hard for him to relate to the people.
Doubling down on the critics with more posts to come. Can we expect more maybe controversial videos from your TikTok?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. I have to keep it going.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. I got to keep it going. I got to keep shaking my ass. I love the attention that my booty gives me, right? Right, folks? That's where we're at in America, right? Times have changed, and I don't think we're going back. I don't think we're getting the good days back, right? Where women, shamed each other, where, shame does not work on these women anymore. You heard her say it, look herself, look at the men who are in office, right? And look what we have, right? So that's what they think about men, and let's continue on.
In a little bit, like.
She is running as an independent. We reached out to the Tanadar campaign for comment. We are waiting to hear back.
Call me now.
All right. So let's check out these comments. This person says, where the fuck these people come from? This person says, when will men realize that we give them power? That's true. We give them, we make more money than them, and they say there's a pay gap, gender pay gap, and that's because men do jobs that women don't want to do. And quite frankly can't do a lot of times, right? The harder jobs, right? So if you want to change the wage gap, get into those jobs, get into these mechanical, hard labor jobs. But they don't want to do that, right? That's not. They want to sit in a cubicle or office or on TikTok or on OnlyFans and shake their ass, right? And even the politicians, even the ones that are supposed to be, well behaved and seen as something worth dating or marrying. Even these ones are on TikTok thinking they can shake it and there should be no remorse, right? Even a lot of these, this one's obviously a single mom, but a lot of even married women now, it's hard to find even married women a lot of times who don't share these ideas, these feminist talking points. So yeah, we give them we give them our money, right? We support them. We give them our energy, right? We do things for them. We, live things for them. We build society. We give them our attention, right? We, they love our attention. They love the attention. The likes, the comments. They love all that. They eat it up, right? And they compare themselves to other women, right, on social media, which is a big problem. I say stop commenting on women's pictures. Stop liking their stuff. Stop being thirsty, right? If there weren't so many simps and thirsty individuals and guys paying for OnlyFans and subscribing to, all that degeneracy, they wouldn't, feel so entitled or feel so above men, right? They see themselves above you a lot of times, right? Above men. The average woman, thinks she's better than the average man, just based off, just what society feeds her, right? And the attention that she gets, right? And then we give them our time, right? We, take them out, wine and dine them. I say we stop giving women dates. If she's not your girlfriend or your wife, I'm not taking you on a date. You're coming to the crib. Maybe we can do something here, do something like that. But, me going out with you, spending all my time and money and effort for you to just, go and smash Tyrone, and Chad, I'm good. And this person says, another classic example of how the Democrats view their party, laughing stock of America, right? So, yeah, I don't even think this is a left or right thing. This is really just left and right. This is a societal thing, So next we have Oklahoma bans child marriage. Oklahoma has banned child marriage. Previously, a 16-year-old could get married with parents' consent. Did y'all know that? I didn't know that you could get married at 16. I thought you had to be 18. But apparently there is child marriage. And apparently other states, I looked it up, other states also, have child marriage legalized. As of 2026, states like California and Mississippi historically allowed under 18 marriage with court or parent approval and no absolute minimum age. Though restrictions have tightened in many places, states including Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, and others have enacted full bans on marriage under 18. Many remaining states set minimum ages like 16 or 17, with exceptions requiring judges and or parents. But now we have Oklahoma has officially become the 17th U.S. state to fully ban child marriage. All right. On May 13th, 2026, Senate Bill 504 became law without Governor Kevin Stitt's signature, setting the minimum marriage age at 18 with no exceptions. The new rule, which takes effect November 1st, 2026, eliminates prior allowances for 16 and 17-year-olds to marry with parental consent and removes court approvals for even younger minors in cases like pregnancy. All right. In my opinion, it's good, right? I think you should be 18. Right? I thought it was always 18, but I think we should make it 18 federally. Because what is a 16 or a 17-year-old gonna do as a married person? Like I get it, you marry, especially a woman, you marry someone young, you marry someone older, but then you're still a kid, right? You shouldn't be messing with anyone older at that age. But when you turn 18, messing with, or dealing with an older guy becomes a lot more socially acceptable. So I think that's when you should be able to get married, right? And then two minors shouldn't be getting married anyway, in my opinion, right? You're too young. I mean, unless you've known each other forever and you guys are already financially, stable, and you guys have, you got your plan set out. But even then, right, I don't think it's gonna last, right? You're too young. You don't have enough life experience, right? You haven't dated enough people. You haven't, it's not gonna last. It's not. All right, so let's see what else we have for this. All right. So here we have, let me see, let's give it some news. We have Fox News here.
The dawn of our state. I do agree with that. But if we're going to talk about the Bible is full of broken people. And we are making the assumption that every single case is the best case scenario. Unfortunately, most of them are not.
Opponents of the child marriage ban cited mostly religious reasons as to why the current law is sufficient the way it is, as well as saying the government shouldn't tell people what to do with their own children.
I know there are a lot of people that get pregnant today and they just go their own way. I understand that. But the ones that want to put it together and try and have the circumstance to where they're less than 18 years of age, they ought to have the right to do that. And if I'm not mistaken, marriage was set up by God. It's not by the state of Oklahoma.
Some of them talked about how couples they've known for years married as teens and have been together for decades.
Marriage has been around.
Okay, of course, there's always exceptions to the rule, right? Here and there, you'll have, some couples that have met each other when they were younger, they got married, and, they've been together forever. But a lot of times, as you know, there's a statistic that, 60 to 75%, I believe, is as high as 75% of marriages in the United States are failing, right, or end in divorce. So there you have it. That's a reason enough right there to just lead you to believe that we should not be getting married, or letting people get married rather at such young ages anyway, because the failure rate. And what do we think getting married is going to help that? Married earlier is going to help that? I don't believe so. As a minor, they say that your brainstem isn't developed until 25, whether or not that's true or not. There's some evidence to that, right? Biologically, physiologically. But, I think 18 is a decent enough age, right? It's 18. What do you want to get married for, right? And there's, especially as a man, there's no real benefit as a man to get married, right? Because if you do get divorced, she's going to end up taking half your shit, right? Unless you get a prenup, which a lot of times those can be overruled in court too. So this really only benefits the woman. And what? You get to say you're married? Right. Cool. Right. So.
Know lots of people. I have people in my family that were married at 16 and 17, and guess what? Remained married until their death. So are you saying that they should not, Mr. Speaker, are you saying that they should have not had the opportunity to marry?
Miller and others who voted yes on the ban say the days of happy teenage couples going to Lover's Lane and getting hitched don't exist anymore. And the system is being exploited by bad actors in today's society. They also point out if the relationship turns sour, many domestic violence shelters do not accept minors and teenagers as clients, even if they've run away.
No, lots of people.
All right, so let me know your thoughts on this. Obviously, I'm against it to a certain age. But this person says, be aware, 36 Republicans voted against this ish too. This person says, and 36 Republicans voted against it. All right, so yeah, Well, it's pretty more of a Republican right traditional type of view, really. Getting married anyway. So I have someone at my door. Someone just dropped off a package. Awesome. Okie dokie. All right. So moving on, let's go with one last topic here. We have been live now for, let's see, for an hour and 30 minutes. All right. So we got somebody in the comments, in the chat. Let's see what the chat. I can't even go up in the chat. Hold on 1 second, folks. We're gonna end. We have been live now for an hour and 30 minutes. Nice little pod. I'm gonna finish off with one last topic. Let's see if I can open up YouTube and look at these comments. StreamYard is not letting me. All right, so this person says New Zealand, not Australia. Yeah, you're right. Right. So it was that shooting that we spoke of earlier, from that individual who created that shooting at the mosque. What's his name? Brennan Tarrant, right? That was in New Zealand, right? Thank you for correcting me. New Zealand, not Australia. He says close enough, LOL. Confused, all right, we have it right here. Confused, crazy haters of everything, but by the sounds of it. Yep. So shout out to Maddie in the chat. We have someone else in the chat says, hello, Stormy. I love you. You blocked me on Patreon. I can't send you money anymore. Okay, if I did block you on Patreon, why did I block you? DM me on Instagram. Sexy wheelchair 5. You are so smart and beautiful. I appreciate that. Shout out to you. Yeah, let me know why I blocked you. It could have been an accident, or maybe I saw something that you posted that was against the community guidelines, perhaps inappropriate to the community. So yeah, I don't really block too many people on there. So DM me on Instagram, sexy wheelchair. All right. Okay, so continuing on, we have one last topic. We have GTA update and news. Let's go. We all excited about Grand Theft Auto. It's gonna be fire, right? I think GTA 6 is gonna change the way gaming is done. So GTA is now being used in Ukraine as a simulation platform to train drone operators within the Ukrainian army, right? So we've seen before, how they control drones. They can use like video game controllers now. Very scary, right? War has changed, but now we have them training on GTA. Let's give it some volume.
Це ж відкритий світ тут. Так.
All right, learning to fly a drone around GTA. All right.
Це капець, прикольно. А і швидкість можна розігнати, та нічого.
Scary stuff, man. Scary stuff.
No, it wasn't a booty call last night. See me at the club tomorrow.
All right, so what a fun way to learn how to blow people up in real life. All right, so very scary stuff. They're using video game as a a source of, thinking about murdering real people, right? So this setup shown by the Ukrainian UAV group We True Gun runs a FPV simulator inside Grand Theft Auto 5 where pilots can fly through city spaces, tune drone behavior, create missions, and connect real radio controllers for more familiar practice during digital drills. The idea is not meant to replace real field training, but it shows how gaming engines can support cheaper repetition, faster learning, and safer early practice for drone operators in wartime conditions. So let me know, do you think video games could be serious military training tools? Obviously, we are seeing this in real time here. So we have more GTA news here. So let's look at GTA 5 versus GTA 6 quality gap. Apparently, it's pretty crazy. So when GTA 5 released in 2013, it was already one of the most visually impressive open world games ever made, especially considering it was built for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 hardware, right? I remember when GTA 5 came back when I used to be a gamer, right? I used to, super pro. I was very pro, MLG pro. I miss gaming sometimes, but a lot of times I, realize how much time I wasted playing video games, right? And I guess it really wasn't a waste because it kind of makes your childhood, right? A lot of nostalgia comes from, playing video games with your friends at the late nights at the house, long night gaming marathons, or with the boys online, in the party chat, talking smack to one another after school, and on the weekends on that Friday after school, you're about to just get into that game all night. Boy, you get you some food, you close the doors. You're not worried about girls. You're not worried about money. Your parents are, still there. You still got them. You got your friends online waiting for you to hop on and, join some matches. But what made GTA 5, special when it came out, it was, so different from any of the other GTA's, Grand Theft Autos, because just the graphics, the money making system, the campaign. GTA 5 is really one of the best games of all time, honestly. It's up there. It's definitely top 5, so definitely made a lot of my childhood and a lot of views out there as well. A lot of y'all. So now GTA 6, which is set to come out at the end of the year. I think it's like November time frame. If it doesn't get pushed back anymore. Apparently it's set at, and set for that November push release. So GTA 6 shows what over a decade of technological progress looks like, right? So far more realistic lighting, denser crowds, sharper facial detail, richer reflections, smoother animations, and a version of Vice City that feels dramatically more alive and cinematic. All right, so the difference is bigger than graphics. It reflects the gap between a world designed around 2013 limitations of technology and one built from modern hardware, focused on immersion, realism, atmosphere, and environmental detail at an entirely different scale. Gaming doesn't just evolve, sometimes it makes generational leaps. So let's check it out. So here we have GTA 5 up here and GTA 6, obviously a huge difference, right? Obviously, you can still tell it's a video game graphics, right? We're not to the point where it's like AI, where it looks, which is makes you wonder. I wonder if they use AI. They definitely had to have used some AI in the development of this, right? I don't think in 2013 for GTA 5 they could have used much AI, as it wasn't really, a big thing, well known. It wasn't as advanced as it is now. So we're going to be seeing some crazy things in GTA 6, right? I can't wait to watch gameplay on that. It's going to be so saturated on the internet with GTA 6 gameplay and content. Apparently, you can make money in this new GTA 6 as well, like real life money from the game, from doing things inside the game. So I'm interested to see how they, incorporate that. Apparently going to be one of the most expensive games to buy ever, right? 2 price tags. So we have some graphics up here. GTA 5, GTA 6 down here. Yeah, it looks sick. That GTA 6 looks absolutely insane, those graphics. So here we have more GTA 5, GTA 6 comparisons, right? Let's see. More up here. Just look at the comparison. Like, look at the colors. You know, look how dark it is in GTA 5, and just how real GTA 6 looks. It looks like a picture that was taken right from a phone or a camera. You know, it looks so real. This one doesn't even really look like a video game, right? That one's hard to believe. More comparison. All right. So, I mean, you can't lie. GTA 5's graphics were actually really good, especially for when it dropped, right? Like, 2013. The graphics were phenomenal, when it dropped, back then. But now GTA 6 just looks like, it looks like almost indistinguishable from real life, right? So awesome. Real awesome. This person says quality gap is crazy. I'd rather say it's a normal technology gap of about 13 years. Yeah, I mean, but either way, at least they did advance, right? So this person says it's taking so long to come out that the graphics will be outdated by the time it's released. Yeah, I mean, that's true. As soon as it drops, then the next biggest thing is going to come out. And that's just how life goes, right? So that is all of our topics and news for today's episode. We have some more. Let me see. We have some more chats. Yep. So that's it. That's it for today's episode, folks. Let me make sure everything's running smooth before we close out today's episode. Make sure we sound good. Sure. Yep. Everything's good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a wrap for today. So, as always, the StormCast is everywhere you find podcasts. So subscribe on YouTube, drop a 5-star review on Spotify, and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Rumble. All links are down in the description. All right. I just want to say, if you want to support the Patreon and support the channel and the podcast and continue to help me make content and push me to make more content, you can always go support on the Patreon down below for the price of a cheeseburger, right? $5. And you join a community of like-minded individuals. You also get behind the scenes footage, vlogs, videos to request. And you can request, other content as well that you would like to see on there. And with that being said, folks, if you liked today's episode, let me know what your thoughts were. All right. Were they good or bad? These topics, happy or sad, let me know. All right. So ask questions also down below, or let me know what you want me to talk about in the next episode, perhaps. And you can always hit me up on Instagram as well at IcyMick. And next week we'll be back next Friday, same time, around 3:00 for another StormCast episode. But first, I want to leave you with a quote. 2 quotes, actually. Okay, so the first one goes, 2 traps you need to avoid: caring what they think and thinking that they care. All right, and that's from the Stoics. So what this quote is about is how much power people give to the opinions of others. Most people spend their lives worrying about being judged, rejected, embarrassed, or misunderstood, constantly thinking everyone is watching and analyzing them. But the reality is that most people are too focused on their own lives to care nearly as much as we think they do. The quote is warning us against 2 traps: caring too much about public opinion and falsely believing other people are thinking about them all the time. It's really about freeing yourself from living for validation and realizing how much mental energy gets wasted trying to impress people who usually move on within minutes. So people who aren't even thinking about you, you're giving energy to and focus to, when you could be focusing on yourself, focusing on your purpose, your goals, and, ignoring the haters, essentially, right? Ignoring the talk. And we're all going to die eventually, right? And we're not, 100 years from now, you probably won't even be remembered, right? Your name will be gone from the books unless, you immortalize yourself, or you become famous, and you live in infamy for a specific purpose, or you create a big enough impact for them to remember you. But realistically, most of us will not even be remembered, 100 years from now. So do what you want, right? As long as it's, legal and, moral, right? Do what you want on this earth, right? Without being judged, right? Only God can judge you at the end of the day, right? And the last quote, the second quote I want to leave you off with for today is, a man wastes his life preparing for a future that was never promised, while the only life he truly owns passes quietly through his hands. All right, so what this quote is about is time and the danger of always living for the future. All right, let me reword that. So this quote is about time and the danger of always living for the future instead of the present. People spend years preparing for one day. One day they'll relax. One day they'll be happy. One day they'll finally live the life they want. But the future is never guaranteed. While people are endlessly planning and waiting for the perfect moment, the only time they truly own is the present, which keeps slipping away from them. The quote is a reminder that life is happening right now, not in some imagined future that may never come, right? You could not wake up tomorrow. You could get in a car crash and die, and never have lived, your true purpose. So live for now. Obviously, you want to plan for the future. You want to set yourself up, but don't get too caught up in the future, right? Which isn't promised. So together, these two quotes describe ways people unknowingly waste their lives. One says people lose themselves by worrying too much about what others think. And the other says people lose themselves by constantly postponing life for the future. Together, they reveal how easy it is to miss the present moment completely, trapped between fear of judgment and fear of uncertainty, until eventually you realize you spent more time worrying and preparing than actually living. All right. So what I want to say is, just don't be afraid to do that thing you've always wanted to do. Do it now without fear of being judged, right? Go for it, shoot for it. And, what others think of you or say about you doesn't matter. It doesn't. All right. So as always, I love you so much. Stay blessed, stay beautiful. I'll see you next episode. Bye, everybody.